It's not the way I planned it. And as I look back on my whole life, it's not the way I planned it. I was supposed to be a scientist, and I was supposed to be studying the nature of the universe. Little did I know that I would be studying the nature of the universe from a totally different angle when I entered into ministry. It's not the way I planned my life at all. It's not the way I planned it. I was single. I was going to ministerial school. Life was good. Yeah. Then Alita walked into my life. Wearing a miniskirt. And my life changed dramatically. And she has been the greatest blessing that I've had in my life. Not the way I planned it. You know, I was very happy and very content where I was. I was thinking about, here I am. I will handle all the operations of this ministry, and I'll do the ministerial thing. And I was minding my own business when Reverend Robin resigned. I didn't plan for that, and my life changed dramatically. Our lives changed dramatically. And as Stacy indicated, we will honor Reverend Robin's privacy on this. But it's not the way I planned my life to go. So I was working on my talk on Friday, and I was at home, and a text came through. Well, my wife will be the first to tell you that I'm actually supposed to read those. And so about 5:30 I did, and it said, the projector is out for Sunday. It's not the way I planned it. They said, do you want to repair it? Do you want to replace it? Do you want to put big monitors up? What do you want to do? I don't know. It's not the way I planned it. My mother making her transition. And right before Christmas. And it was my mother's absolute favorite time of the year. She loved Christmas. And I know she was very sad. She had been for the last few years because she grew blind. And the decorations, the lights of Christmas brought her such great joy. And she couldn't see them anymore. So I do want to thank all of you for your support. I miss her. My family is all up in the Seattle area, so I would call every week. And when I talked to my mother, you have to understand my mother. My mother had a great curiosity about her. She was an ordained unity minister, as is my father. So when we would talk, my mother asked me such profound questions as, why are there no dinosaurs in the Bible? Now, I have the original Bible from Adam and Eve. And there's no mention of dinosaurs in my Bible either. My mother would ask me about the world of physics. She'd say, why does string theory in physics say that we have to have multiple universes? What's the plural of universe? Universi. Multiple things. And why does it have to be 12 or 13? And why can't we see other universes? It's really interesting. Alan Carl sent me an article over the weekend, and it talked about when people make their transition, that soul, that consciousness just moves into one of these parallel universes. It's a very comforting thought. My mother would ask me such things as, what lies beyond infinity? Now, think about it. My mother was a very unique soul. My mother loved everybody, and she never wanted to hurt anybody. So as she became blind, and she loved to read, she absolutely loved to read. As she became blind, She couldn't read anymore, so she started getting audiobooks. And she would listen to these audiobooks all the time. And so I'd call her up and I'd talk to her, and she'd tell me about the audiobooks, because sometimes she shared titles and everything that I might be interested in. And I remember one time talking with her, and she said, I am listening to this audiobook. I said, well, God, what is it? And she said, it's the worst book I have ever listened to in my whole life. Yeah, so why are you listening to it? Well, I don't want to hurt the author's feelings. That was my mother. All that has changed. You know, something very special and something very precious has gone out of my physical sight. It's not really the reality that I wanted, and even though she was in her 80s, I just assumed that she would continue to live forever. And my deepest regret is that she never got to see her great-grandson, my grandson Dorian. It's not the way I planned it. In fact, we were going to take him out in March to meet my whole side of the family. Not the way I planned it. Last Sunday, we prepared this Whitestone service just for you. We had this winter storm come in. Not the way I planned it. Some of you came and we participated in the Whitestone service. Others of you weren't able to be here. And if you weren't able to be here, if you want to do it again, we're having sort of a mini Whitestone service in the Peace Chapel today at 12:30. So I invite you to join with me then at 12:30 in the Peace Chapel. It'll be about 20 minutes, so it won't be a long service. But I had not planned that. Have you ever noticed in your life that some things don't go as you have planned? When I saw the title for this Sunday's lesson, my first thought was, I really don't want a new reality. I really don't know that I want to embrace it. I like my reality just the way it is, thank you very much. A long time ago, and you know I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. A long time ago, the president and CEO and general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, a man named Carl Peterson. And I remember him saying all the time, he said, you know, the only constant in the NFL, the National Football League, is change. Well, I've heard that before. But he said something else that really stuck with me. He says, you can't stay where you're at. If you don't change, you're moving backwards. If you don't change, you're moving backwards. So I was watching and listening to last Saturday's Chiefs game, and I remember at the end, and I think it was on the radio, it might have been Mitch Holtis, who was saying, this team will never be the same again. Those people, some of those people are going to be gone, and some new ones are being added in. Change is taking place, and if you follow the Chiefs, you know it's already happening. Change is taking place. It seems like the only constant we have in life is change, and life is not always the way we planned it. And yet, isn't it interesting? We come into a new year, and what we want to do is we want to set new intentions, new resolutions. How many have set resolutions for this year? Yeah, the same group last week who just... My daughter volunteers at my grandson's first grade classroom, 6-year-olds. And so my daughter's assignment this past week was to talk about New Year's resolutions with 6-year-olds. So my daughter goes in and says, okay, so what's a New Year's resolution? Finally, a girl in the back of the room raised her hand, and Kristen, my daughter, said, okay, well, what is a resolution? She said, well, it's when you make a list of something you want to do, but you don't do it. So they talked about resolutions a little bit, and my daughter said, okay, let's look at our resolutions for this new year. And maybe we should put, how many of you would like to put as one of your resolutions that we keep our rooms cleaner? Well, how many of you would like to set as your new resolution that you read more books? Well, she went on to talk a little bit more about resolutions, and finally one girl said, I have a resolution. And they said, well, Kristen said, well, what is it? And she said, I want to go back to 19th century France. Several others raised their hand and said, I want to go to Hawaii. And Kristen got really excited and said, are your parents taking you to Hawaii? They go, no. My grandson raised his hand and he said, I want to be the first kid in space. I thought that was pretty cool. And then he said, I want my dog, they have two Australian Shepherds, I want Daisy to be in dog shows. Well, you have to understand about Australian Shepherds. Australian Shepherds are a herding dog. And if you look at the scale on herding dogs, Border Collies are pretty much up here as far as intelligence is concerned. Australian Shepherds and Daisy. But Dorian told me, he said, Daisy can shake. So we went over to their house yesterday. And so Dorian was there with me and Daisy was there. And I said, okay, Daisy, shake. Shake, Daisy. Finally, Dorian said, well, you have to lift up her paw. We set our new intentions. We look for a new reality. And folks, sometimes intentions set us. Sometimes things just happen that are totally out of our plans of anything we desire. So sometimes we have to move in new and uncomfortable directions. I was thinking about the life and teachings of Jesus a little bit. And you know, he's got what's called the Master's Sermon. It's called the Sermon on the Mount, found in Matthews 5, 6, and 7. And if you haven't read it in a while, you may want to pull it out and just read it, because it truly is a masterpiece. And Jesus, for his time, brought a whole new reality to people. A whole new reality. In the Sermon on the Mount, there are 107 verses in the Sermon on the Mount, and I didn't count them. I Googled that. 28 of those 107 have to do with 6 things that he says. He said, you have heard it said, but I say unto you. Your reality this far has been, but I say unto you. There's a new reality. I say unto you. As you read through the scriptures, as you read through the Gospels, the 4 Gospels, you'll find Jesus making statements like, a new commandment I give you. He said, you know, it's not good enough just to love one another as you would love yourself. You have to love as the Christ loves in you. It's a new reality that he brought to people. And it was uncomfortable for a lot of people. I think it was uncomfortable for him. You know, I think when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, that he sort of thought hoping there was a different plan going on. But he said, you know, nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Right when my mother passed, I was called into the bookstore. I just had this calling that I needed to walk in the bookstore. Usually I go in the bookstore and bother the staff in there, but this time I walked in and I just looked around. And right after my mother passed, I was called to this book, Angel's Insight. It's by Stephanie Barton, one of our own. And I picked it up and I started going through it. You can tell if I really read a book by the number of sticky notes that are in it. So I picked it up, and there's a couple things I want to share with you from this book. The first one is a passage. These are just individual passages. Each page is something different, and it really, really has touched me at a deep level. And this one says, traffic stopped. I could see beyond the stalled car immediately in front of us that the road ahead was clear. My daughter, sitting in the back, seeing only my seat, squirmed. "Trust me, the road ahead is smooth. We just have to be patient," I said. Sometimes our angels ask the same. We can't see what lies ahead and we feel stuck. But with patience and trust, the path is made smooth. What lies ahead is good. What lies ahead is good. You know, we have these obstacles in front of us, and sometimes we can't see beyond those obstacles. But what lies ahead is good. In fact, I'm going to invite you to take that affirmation with you today. What lies ahead is good. You know, any of you have any challenges going through your life right now? Yeah, same group of people. For you, write this down. What lies ahead is good. Put it on your mirror. Put it on your refrigerator. What lies ahead is good. Would you affirm that with me? What lies ahead is good. Lies ahead is good. How about affirming the words with me? I am boundless. I am boundless. I am free of limitations. I am free of limitations. I embrace possibilities. I embrace possibilities. What an outstanding series of statements to take with us as we go through our life, and it brings us unplanned experiences in our life. What lies ahead is good. So here's what I've learned. When you step into a new reality, when you are ready to embrace an alternate reality, there's a couple things that I want you to remember. The first thing is it's okay to curse. Being a minister, I can't do that. But I have learned a few words that I can use. When I was in the world of physics, my classmates and I, when something would come up, we learned the words pox and pshaw. So when something came up, we say, well, pox and pshaw upon that, you know. In this day and age, we use the words really. Really? Really? In the world of sports, I have a good friend who loves to golf. And when he hits that wayward shot that happens all the time, he too is an ordained unity minister, so he has to be careful what he says. But when Richard hits that shot, he says, dirty word, dirty word, dirty word. It's okay to do that. Secondly, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. You know, as we go through these times, you're going to feel sad, you're going to feel angry, you're going to feel upset. It's okay to feel those things. You don't want to live there, but it's okay to feel them. Just allow those feelings to find expression through you, to come through you. And then remember the statement, what lies ahead is good. Also remember to breathe. You know, just take a deep, deep breath and slow down a little bit. So you can curse, you can feel what you're feeling, you can breathe. And that brings me back to my mother. This quilt up here today was made by my mother and actually hangs on the wall in our living room. She was blind when she made that. Now, that's not what she planned in her life. When she was ready to do a quilt, my sister would have to go out with her and help her buy the fabric because she couldn't see it. My dad would have to take the scissors and cut all the small and tiny pieces for it because she couldn't see it. And when we'd visit her, she and my sister have a quilting room. And I'd go in there, and their mom would be with her sewing machine. And these little pieces of fabric. And she can't see, but she's holding the pieces of fabric right up against the presser foot and trying to make them as straight as she possibly can. And my mother's absolutely embarrassed that I brought this today. She's probably telling me right now, don't have anybody come up and see it, because a lot of the seams aren't straight on this. But you know what? You know what? Everyone was done with love. And we have a quilt for our bed, and we have this size quilts, and we have placemats, all of which my mother made, and most of them after she was blind. Life was different than she had planned. My mother said, though, I'm going to make the most of my life. Now that I'm blind, I can just sit here and feel sorry for myself, or I can do those things I really, really love to do. And it may take me a heck of a lot longer to do them, but I am going to do them. They bring me joy. And so she made quilts. She couldn't read, she listened to audiobooks. A few days after my mother made her transition, I heard her voice. And it came so strong. And she said to me, even though I didn't live long enough to see my great-grandson, and she couldn't have seen him anyway with her physical eyes, she said, I see him now. I can see him right now. Robin has moved on in her life, whatever her journey is taking her, and it's not what she has planned. And there's a new reality for Robin. There's a new reality for each and every one of us. What lies ahead is good. So I was bringing this little book, putting it with my notes to bring into the sanctuary, and I dropped it. And I wasn't going to read this part, but it opened right to this page, so I guess I'm supposed to read it. It says, you can see the thorn or the rose, the darkness or the dawn. You can see the battles or the blessings, the chaos or the calm. You can see the grudge to carry or the grace to forgive, the cross to bear or the burden to set free. You can see separation, segregation, disparity, and disease, or you can see spirit. And when you see spirit in all things, nothing else matters. Today, you can see love. Today, you can see love. Robin chose the title of today's talk, and I think this is her message to us. Embrace the alternate reality. Embrace the new reality. And finally, from Stephanie's book, I am ready for the good stuff. I'm ready to soar. I'm ready to speak up. I'm ready for more. I'm ready to dance, love, and laugh out loud. I celebrate today. I am ready now. I am ready for the good stuff. How about you? Same group. Would you affirm that with me? I am ready for the good stuff.
I am ready for the good stuff.
I am boundless.
I am boundless.
I release limitation.
I release limitation.
I embrace possibility.
I embrace possibility.
And once again, I am ready for the good stuff.
I am ready for the good stuff.
Yeah, me too. God bless you all.